This podcast is protected under the laws of the United States and other countries. Unauthorized duplication, distribution, or exhibition may result in civil liability, criminal prosecution, and the wrath of the tall man.
Boy! Hey, let's talk about you, the ID10T community events at ID10T.com, like Russ Stevens, a.k.a.
Cat Bus Russ,
who has started a podcast called 90 for Chill, which Russ says is dedicated to movies with a runtime between 74 and 99 minutes, the time frame that I feel is ideal. Russ, I could not agree with you more. That is a fantastic idea. Russ goes on to say there are times you need a cinematic fix but don't have time for the latest Scorsese masterpiece or offering from a comic book universe. There's also times when you need a conclusion to prevent a binge costing you a whole night. My guests and I try to follow these guidelines as we chat up features that are definitely worth your time and are beyond easy to make time for. 90 for Chill, the podcast, can be found on all major podcast platforms at 90forchill.com, and that's spelling out 90, Ninety, 4 FOR, chill. So there you go. Thank you so much for sharing, Russ. Really great idea for a podcast. Events at ID10T.com for everyone else.
Hello there.
Hey, Cat Bus Russ here. Thanks for checking out 90 for Chill, the podcast. And this week, I could not get a guest lined up. I would like to get one just before this year ends. You'll be on the 200th episode in that event. So if that doesn't sweeten the pot, I don't know what will. So this week, though, with the year coming to an end, and I gotta save those receipts. So if I have it on a receipt with something else purchased, I better document it on the podcast. So we're gonna start with some 70s movies. I justified the Shudder subscription this week with Daughters of Darkness, a vampire film, which I think was German, Flemish, French. It was a lot of people working together and really kind of set the standard, I think, for lesbian vampirism. Totally different path than Bram Stoker's. Probably a more traditional path if you really look into the history. Then I also justified Amazon Prime with Death Sport, what Roger Corman hoped to be the spiritual sequel to Death Race 2000 with same star David Carradine. It's not that. And then we went to my Vinegar Syndrome purchases this year with Arnold, a movie about marrying a corpse just for the money, of course. And then Silent Running, a movie that was very close to being my top film from 2020 when 90 for Chill was just a blog. So I hope you enjoy all these reviews. I'll even throw in a review for Bit, a 2019 lesbian vampire movie with trans undertones, which really, if I had the time, I would have rewatched it just to address those, because I didn't really pick up on them back in the day. There we go this week. Other news, I suppose. It's looking better and better for Fan Expo New Orleans in terms of the panel I'll be hosting on January 10th, 2 p.m. to 2:45 p.m. Yeah, all I really have otherwise is just to continue promoting the patreon.com/IDidCrazyFlicks. $3 a month. It'll get you at least a sticker and a shout out on each episode of 90 for Chill. Shout out to friend of the show, Tim Bates. I've got both his episodes on the main feed now about Arena and Night of the Demons. A good friend of mine, AAW interviewer, The Scoop Staley. So $3 will get you the sticker, the shout out. It gets me an energy drink to continue my 50-hour work weeks. If you don't want to go to energy drinks, it'll get Ava, the Queen Kitty, 3 tins of cat food. I guess all I have to really do before my final thank yous is to just say, hey, if you want to be on 90 for Chill the podcast, send an email to russthebus07@gmail.com. That's RUSSTHEBUS07@gmail.com. Offer me a movie, a theme, a director, an actor. And with I Did Crazy Flicks kind of taking priority, I'm going to listen to pretty much any offer, and we'll get to creating some fried podcast gold there. You could also contact me on my socials. That's at CatBusRuss on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads. And of course, rate and subscribe on your favorite podcast apps. 5 stars preferably. Be as honest as you'd like in the comments. Well, that is it for all the formalities, except for me thanking Station Marie Harden for keeping an eye on me, keeping me out of trouble, and still being my inspiration. I hope she's doing the same for everybody else she touched in her life, and I hope she's enjoying the fluffy presence of Skimbleshanks the One-Eared Angel. Thanks for checking out 90 for Chill the podcast, and on to the show.
Now available on video cassette.
It wasn't a funeral, it was a wedding.
His lordship's already got himself a wife.
No, she's a widow now. Cousin Arnold is dead, you know.
Oh, well, that explains everything.
How do I love thee? Just you wait and see. Arnold, oh Arnold, until our final breath, even better after death. Arnold, darling Arnold, tender Arnold, happy bride and groom, exotic honeymoon. Arnold, Arnold, they said it couldn't be, but just you wait and see. Arnold, you and me through eternity. Oh, warm, sweet Arnold. Arnold.
Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
I know this review will not be released at the ideal time since I will be discussing Black Friday sales, but that's the entire point. With Black Friday coming up, I have to decide, am I going to buy more Vinegar Syndrome disc or more Criterion Collection? Hence, I watched Arnold, which I got from the sale back in Labor Day weekend on Vinegar Syndrome. It's a feature from 1973, directed by George Fenady, and is a production from the Bing Crosby production company. So, very weird for Bing Crosby, who's about to sing Little Drummer Boy with David Bowie, to be producing a horror comedy. It's the story of Karen, played by Stella Stevens, no relation, as far as I know. Mom does all the genealogy stuff, and I think she just really focuses on my dad's family to prove that, no, we weren't Dutch, we were Germans. But I digress. It's the World Wars. You know what side we're going to claim. Karen is betrothed, I guess you would say, to Arnold. Arnold could not get a divorce from his wife, so when he dies, making his wife the widow, he decides to marry Karen, based on the premise that soldiers can be wed in absentia to their brides, and who knows, they may have already died in the field. Let's just say there's a lot of money involved, and the interested parties are Jocelyn, the widow of Arnold, played by Shawnee Willis, his brother, Robbie, played by the legendary Malcolm McDowell, and of course, Karen. So the will stipulates that Karen will get everything that she wants, provided she will always be with Arnold. So everybody's trying to figure a way out to get the fortune, get her out of this deal, but everybody is dying in, well, the police would say accidental fashions, which, just more evidence that all cops are bad, if not bad, dim. But with every death comes a new audio cassette that you insert into his coffin, which has a tape deck in it. These cassettes are pretty much making Karen think that Arnold is still alive. Will she figure it out? And it's a feature where you could just never trust the loving sister Elsa Lanchester. I know her best from Bed Knobs and Broomsticks as a bad nanny, and I guess I've seen her mostly play nannies since she was watching over the, I guess you would say, the Agatha Christie proxy in the movie Murder by Death. That's your basic premise. Starts out very much like, well, geez, this just be a Monty Python sketch. And it does kind of drag once we've gone and killed the two primary antagonists And then it's like, oh, we got to come up with a couple more to just show how devious Arnold truly is. There's a lot of silly stuff that doesn't age well. The Constable Hook uses the M word, trying to figure out if a character has exploded and just making sure all the parts were that character, not a midget involved. And I'm sorry to just drop the M-bomb. So, I don't know. I can go on about that. It's kind of like PC stuff. Why did they choose the word dwarf? Wouldn't you want to be more magical like an elf? I don't know. I really think we just... Little person. There we go. It's fine. But then there's the inferior... I don't know. It shouldn't be PC. Or this podcast shouldn't focus on being... Well, shit. Obviously, I should be PC because that just means I'm taking the time to consider stuff. It's just very difficult when you actually stop and think how words evolve and what have you. That's my stance. Don't use the M word unless they're a wrestler. I'm only saying that because people like Swoggle say, no, use that word. But on top of that, you have Jamie Farr from MASH doing brownface. And I think he did that in the Cannonball Run as well. So, yeah, it's a picture of its time. But it's pretty well directed, all things considered. I would say your biggest issue is continuity between... when you're carrying a coffin outside to transition a scene when everything else has pretty much been on dreary sound stages. I mean, that's rather pointless, and the humor is rather juvenile at times. Like, we have the constable's father flirting with his fiancée with a huge rack who's a bartender. As I say, it does drag once we we gotta kill more people, don't we? But hey, we gotta get to 70 minutes at the very least. And it's a cool twist at the end about, well, I guess you'd say it's predictable, the only possible option. But then there's a twist on top of that, and it suggests that the cat was behind it all. And, this little black cat was awesome, given a lot of Black Kitty moments, and it definitely comes out on top in the end. So there is a victor of this feature, without spoiling anything else. As I say, it's a Bing Crosby production, so it's very weird having a bunch of Yankees playing Limey. And I would say that the dramatics kind of feel like 60s horror television, say like a Twilight Zone episode. So maybe not fit for films, which can definitely do more, I think, than television, at least back in the 1970s. That's more of a feature, not a distraction, or a bug. It's a feature, I suppose. The performances are all solid. I can see why there's comparisons between Stella Stevens, definitely on the career trajectory from Playboy to actress. Roddy McDowall's a lot of fun. Maybe not Roddy enough for me. I like a little more Ponce to him, but... And as I say, so many of the actors are American, it kind of makes their English, or I dare say British, because our Constable Hook, that is Bernard Fox plays him, and that's a Welshman. Again, we're just picking at straws there. It pays off in the end if you stick around. All the deaths are a lot of fun. I will say that much. It gives me ideas of what I want to try doing in post-mortem to people. I am a guy who's got a body bag full of memorabilia because I figure, if you're going to rob it, might as well actually score on occasion. It's a morbid little movie that stretches its premise. Definitely something I'd love to see revisited. I think, we're 50 years removed. But definitely something that needs to be preserved, and thank you, Vinegar Syndrome, for doing so. So that is Arnold.
Space convoy on a strange voyage, carrying a rare cargo. The forests, the plants, the growing things doomed to extinction on Earth.
We have just received orders to abandon and nuclear destruct all the forests. and return our ships to commercial service.
We're going home!
You can't blow up this forest. Now move! You're not gonna do it.
Silent running. Cataclysm in outer space. Every moment bringing its own danger as man explores the mysteries of an unknown and limitless universe.
And I've just concluded my rewatch of Silent Running, the feature that actually kind of inspired this episode idea of nothing but 70s movies. I purchased it, and it happened to be on a receipt with my Paramount Plus, so, you know, the accountant's going to see that, so might as well get it all written off, you know what I mean? Thus, I mean, this is really, I think maybe more impactful than well, not necessarily more impactful, but you pick up on more elements behind this feature, and it just means a lot more, I guess, is what I'm saying. Silent Running is a movie about Bruce Dern as a conservationist on a mission with 3 other astronauts, I suppose to be the right term, to take care of the remaining forests on Earth, which have been shipped out into space, waiting for a time to be put back on the planet. In a sense, WALL-E. And when you have droids with personality in this feature, it really makes me now think, well, geesh, if it wasn't for Silent Running, would we have WALL-E, perhaps the best Pixar movie? Interesting, I suppose. So eventually, like in WALL-E, the government just decides to give up on the project, and it's just easier to give these freighters back to the commercial airlines they belong to, so let's just blow up the forest. Bruce Dern will not have it, and he goes and essentially mutinies, murders his crew. And this is a G-rated feature, which conclusion is something you don't necessarily want to pass on to children, I suppose. Oh, the 70s. But he mutinies, he saves one of the forests, and he's just hoping to go as far as in the deep space away from people to make sure the forest thrives. And it's just, I mean, let me pull up my notes. I actually had to stop the recording to do that. So this comes from a Michael Cimino script. So this is the man who probably made definitely one of the top 5 best movies of the 70s, and The Deer Hunter. So never gets enough respect. And it just really still very poignant today, especially, you know, after all the climate and the start of a new Trump presidency. It's just, if anything, this was like hippies knowing that, hey, everybody's given up on the movement. It basically, corporations, Christianity, capitalism, a bunch of C words that I would like to throw another one in, but this is not an explicit podcast. Basically, we decided to trade all our hard work for those things that are offered by them. Earth has become a planet where it's constantly 75 degrees. Everybody has a job. Why would you complain? Why would you want to bring forests back and make people sacrifice for that? And that's where we are as a country right now. Basically, it's just the powerful know that power is solely done through convincing the drones, which are what the robots are called, not droids, the drones, that it won't get any better, be satisfied. And of course, they get to go and exploit and make their lives better. So it's really a sad state of affairs. But, you know, this movie runs at a very fast pace. It's under 90 minutes. 45 minutes, you've already got the conclusion of the mutiny, and then it's like, well, geesh. And then another 45 minutes they put in a story about loss as drones who get personalities, and they're just brilliantly written, and the performances by, I presume, the little people is just excellent, controlling these puppets in a sense. I mean, I'm presuming they were inside him, of course, since I suggested it's little persons. And it's just, you know, especially once they give names, Huey, Louie, and Dewey to these machines, it's like, oh, you do feel for every little thing that happens. And, you know, they do their best to save them a little more bedside manner than Chewbacca and C-3PO, I dare say. And when I say that, bringing up Star Wars, like the effects, the model work is just so solid. It kind of makes me wonder, do we ever really want to get CG? Like Ray Harryhausen, the effects were fine. I don't know if the dinosaurs really look that much better in Jurassic Park than that. It's just, well, they're so easy to integrate now with our actors. They don't look like they're on a different plane. And I understand that's kind of awesome, but it's then kind of lacks some of the charm. And I guess, you know, just being a cinephile, I kind of miss the days of the iris in this sense, to focus on stuff. Like, there's so many great advancements we make in technology. We kind of forget how creative you had to be with the previous methods. I mean, Bruce Dern is excellent, but you kind of get a vibe that Bruce Dern's always been Bruce Dern, a little always crotchety, and I mean, so I'm imagining he's probably in his late 30s in this feature, and but you know, he's got that, like, but it's fun to see it in this feature because it's kind of like a directed anger for a cause. And he's always been an angry character in his films that I'm familiar with, going back to Diggstown and his Tarantino works. But it's like, but you can get it, and you relate to his crotchiness. And I mean, it's like he carries this feature, and it reminds me of the movie Moon, which qualifies for the podcast if you'd like to chat about that. Except, you know, we had to use, you know, robots, nonverbal companions instead of Kevin Spacey, and Bruce Dern doesn't get a clone of himself to play with, but, you know, similar vein, and, I mean, this movie is really a must-see for any science fiction fan. New appreciation for it, honestly, with this rewatch. I think this finished in like the top 2 or 3 when I first saw this movie when 90 for Chill, I think, was primarily just the blog of that year. I watched it. It had to be 2020 because it was probably 2020 because I was still, because I had moved to this apartment. But yeah, this is a very breathtaking movie. I mean, just on its sheer creativeness, and you know, it, again, as I say, it still plays perfectly today, and with you know, rednecks with wheels, you know, not caring about the environment that so many of us have a passion for is demonstrated. And I mean, but you know, there's the Bruce Dern character shows remorse for his actions, but you know, he knows he's got to stand up for his greater cause, and this is something, I think, a message that needs to keep being pushed forward. Let's stop these rednecks, because let rednecks have wheels, they're just going to be assholes. But that's, you know, it's so important to just make sure that we have what we've enjoyed and can pass it on.
You are condemned to death sport.
In the year 3000, all freedoms are crime. There is just one penalty. Death sport. David Carradine and Claudia Jennings are super warriors.
I am my only master.
Lovers, imprisoned and separated with only one chance for survival.
Fight me.
See you both in hell.
It's a future war on wheels fought astride high-powered death machines with blasters and laser guns.
I can survive your death sport.
There are no Olympic Games, World Series, or Super Bowls. There is only death sport. David Carradine conquers the death sport.
I had hopes that another collaboration between David Carradine and Roger Corman, with the word death in the title, was not going to disappoint me. Sadly, that is not the case with Death Sport. There's really not much sport to it, which is kind of disappointing, which is kind of the angle they were playing with, I suppose, because of Death Race 2000. It's a story of a world after I'd say probably 1,000 years after the Neutron War, where you have city-states that would be warring with each other if it was worth the risk of cannibals and these lone justice seekers called guides who just keep the order outside the city-states. But to demonstrate and to encourage their city of Helix, or Helix, no actor agrees on the pronunciation of it, to go to war for fuel, they decide to create death machines, and they want to use Death Sport to prove that these guides cannot stop them, hence their enemies in the city of Triton cannot either. It's very silly, and these death machines are just dirt bikes, essentially with lasers. And I kind of dig a lot of the ideas they have, like the lasers vaporize whatever they shoot at. That's kind of fun, just like the opening of Flash Gordon, which, to Death Sport's credit, is 2 years before that. And they have cool swords called Whistlers, which are only cool in concept, granted. It's a big transparent piece of plastic, or glass, I suppose. Regardless, a lot of continuity errors, which is kind of a charm of a Roger Corman feature, I suppose. Like when they knock out David Carradine to go and capture him and send him to the Death Sport, immediately one guy tries grabbing the blade, and then just, oops, made that mistake. And when they're dragging Carradine off, unconscious David Carradine, he's still got his hand on the whole, not letting go of the sword. So silly little mistakes like that, and you'd say that's almost charming until it just gets so damn repetitive. The torture scenes are sheer exploitation for the most part, and silly but kind of charming in the sense that, oh, we're going to put this woman in a set, in a room full of just hanging lights, and suddenly they're going to be electrical and torture, and obviously they're nude, or a strobe light torture scene. It just kind of makes me wonder how I've seen so many bad movies since the digital anybody can make a movie stage, where they can't come up with charming little ideas, simple ideas where, you know, you're a bad movie. People will, to have fun, people will, what is the term about disbelief? Will just ignore their disbelief and have fun with it, I suppose. And then once we get to all the death machines, which are supposed to be invincible, obviously, no, they're not invincible to start with. And once we get to scenes where, well, we need to make this look exciting, despite it's only two heroes, David Carradine and Claudette Jennings, who are just slicing away at motorcycle riders. Well, what are we going to do with all these motorcycles? Well, let's blow them up somehow. Let's say, oh, there's a minefield now. So no continuity there. And it's just like explosions for the sake of explosions. And there was a lot of difficulty with this feature between the David Carradine and Roger Corman and the original director, Nicholas Nikifor, who I've just read enough from the Wikipedia that there's enough documented statements that this guy couldn't really handle the explosions because of his PTSD from Vietnam. So David Carradine being stoned all the time was probably true, but, you know, if you're stoned on that high grade stuff, which they claim he was, I don't think he'd be overly difficult to work with. So, needless to say, the explosions are just happening for the sake of explosions, and they're nice explosions, though. I will give them that, but these are dirt bikes. There's nothing really overly sophisticated about it. And of course, this is an late 70s, 80s movie. So there's going to be a scene with caves and mutants and kids to rescue, what have you. And, I mean, what's a fun little distraction for the most part, seeing mutants with sunglass goggles as in place of their eyes. Tanning bed goggles in place of their eyes. I mean, there's so much silliness, you kind of want to like it, but, you know, you stop, and once, as I say, continuity errors are kind of a charm to New World Picture features, but no, then it's just like, oh, let's ride around this old, you know, I don't know what kind of depot it was. They say it's a fuel depot. And let's just blow stuff up wherever we can. It's kind of like Michael Bay would have a ball with this. He probably, I've kept it pretty clean, so I'm not going to use too many metaphors to refer to Michael Bay and all the explosions. So, I wanted to like it. I mean, it's fun having your original antagonist being portrayed by the Marble Man. And I could see this having potential for a remake just because, you know, you have this city-state stuff and you have the original antagonist like, oh, I'm not dying, you're alternative facts and all that stuff. So it's kind of timely in that sense. But as I say, it's just the ADR, which is obviously a lot because you're shooting dirt bikes, is bad. And it just, at one point I thought, oh, our guides are telepathic. No, I think that was just bad ADR. And it just, gets very, wears on you. And as they say, it's like you basically see people going through the motions, going through circles, like it could have been a death race, but, you know, no, that's not how that would have worked. And just jumps for the sake of jumps and explosions for the sake of explosions. There's just no heart to it. Like, I'd rather have seen an Italian knockoff using motorcycles, or I should say dirt bikes in this case. So it's sad because the soundtrack's got a nice video game feel at least for the 1970s. So you got a nice synth thing going. You got Jerry Garcia's guitar riffs. I mean, so much you want to hope this movie could be redeeming, but it's not, sadly. So let it alone. So there was not going to be this sequel to this called Death World. And, it's just kind of sad that, well, I don't know. It's a weird stage for Carradine because he's going to have Q the Winged Serpent in a few years. So, this is one of those, and I've liked Galaxy of Terror. I liked The Forbidden World. So I have a thing for these low-budget Corman flicks, but this is, so this one was pretty disappointing. So maybe it was just the change to the 80s, but then again, what really is it? The problem is that Death Race 2000 was just total satire, which made the cheesiness fun and justified. This doesn't have that. It's trying to be a Barbarian / Star Wars knockoff, and it just fails.
Silly tales about ghouls chased away by garlic and vampires shrinking from crosses.
She kidnapped young girls and kept them chained to give blood. Blood for her to bathe in and drink.
She bit them everywhere.
No.
And then she pushed white-hot pokers into their faces. And when they parted their lips to scream, she shoved the flaming rod up into their mouths.
Stop it.
Blood, beautiful red blood.
Stop it!
Her hands, and her arms, and her legs.
Stop it.
Worry, you're safe with me.
I killed no one.
Again.
It's difficult to forget.
Ah, you will. After a while, it'll only be the remembrance of a bad dream. And then the remains of a remembrance. More and more faint in your mind. I have seen many a night fall away into an even more endless night.
Nights like last night.
Who do you think I am? A kind of ghoul? A vampire? Oh, no, my dear. So many nights, tumbling and tumbling away into the abyss of time. Faster, my love, faster, faster.
If you think these ladies are something, wait until you meet Mother. She's something else.
It doesn't seem like I'm going to get a guest for the December 11th episode of 90 for Chill, the podcast with Cat Bus Russ. Based on recent purchases on iTunes and Vinegar Syndrome recently, I decided, well, it looks like a good theme would be 70s movies. So I figured, well, I better go and check off Netflix and Paramount Plus to make sure I've featured them at least once a month, you know, tax purposes and all. And it's kind of disappointing. You can't find much from the 70s on either platform. Netflix has currently got some Hitchcock, but otherwise, your best 70s movie is The Deer Hunter, which I will say does not feel like 3 hours. Hey, Best Picture, what can I argue with? And Hitchcock. And no, we're not getting Frenzy or any of his later stuff when he was free of the MPA. I mean, not the MPA, the Hays Code, but I digress. Paramount Plus, Taxi Driver, Jaws. I mean, my big sister is right, the Poetic Critic. We got to respect the 70s and before that even more. Fortunately, Shudder does that. So I did find the erotic vampire feature, which I don't know if it's the first one that really plays on the lesbian angle of, you know, I guess you would say, some would even say Lilith or what have you. We're getting into True Blood stuff there, so I'll just stop there. But when you look at movies like The Hunger, and then when you go to my generation, you have Bit, which I have spoken about on the podcast, so great, I got to go and dig that out. Well, no, that's actually a good thing. So, okay, brainstorming on the fly. But Daughters of Darkness is a story about a British aristocrat, I guess you would say. This is in the 1970s, obviously, who decided to just get married in Switzerland and is trying to deal with his wife not being obedient and how he's going to disappoint his mother, and that's an entirely weird deal there. So they arrive at a hotel on the let's see, sorry, they take a day trip to Bruges, so I guess that's Belgium. So regardless, Ostrin, I believe, is the town they're stuck in on the sea. And when they arrive at the hotel, they find another couple, a woman and, it's the class who has the same name, except it's Elizabeth, not the Hungarian version. But she's a countess, the famous countess, who bathed herself, allegedly, with at least 300 virgins' blood. So, obviously, vampire. and her concubine, there we go, or a secretary, what have you. And their plan is to go and bring Valerie into the fold. And Stefan is just trying to have his cake and eat it too, with the vampires, and making sure he can still command. Well, basically, he just determines he can command women. So, again, Bit is a nice film to accompany this, about a vampire comedy about lesbian vampires, basically trying to keep men from becoming vampires, so because men are awful and power corrupts everything. So that's the film in a nutshell. You do have a cop who's trying to chase down, or a retired cop trying to figure out who's recently murdered 4 women and left them totally drained of blood. They are clever vampires, though. They slit the throat. So, and yeah, it's a game of cat and mouse, essentially, all based around seduction. And honestly, it's not really that explicit. I mean, you do have full frontal nudity, but that's more incidental in the male case, and it's not like we're zooming in on stuff in the female case. So, it's beautifully shot, I will say that much. And I love these fade outs to, instead of the Lucas Star wipe, a Lucas wipe, it's all based around just the screen going red. So I guess you'd call it a bleed out, essentially, or bleed in. I digress. But not a lot really happens, I think, is what could deter people from watching this movie. It's a lot of conversation, but not necessarily clever conversation. It's just more or less like really a set of arguments, I suppose. Like, well, you shouldn't be doing this, or you shouldn't be doing that with him, or this is how he'll play that. Well, it's not. No. So if you love that kind of stuff, I guess you could even go back to like the Philadelphia Story to compare and contrast that with, except, obviously not explicit. It can be amusing that way. But there's not really anything to laugh at, so there's not it's really the performance of the Countess. And I'm sorry, I don't have my notes, so I didn't really take any notes. I mean, it was that good a movie. I just watched and okay, cool. But our Countess just kind of, and playing Hungarian, so it's kind of like a Green Acres Eva Gabor, I guess. Just like, I talk so freely, I must speak, and we're going to be good friends and all that. So it's charming in a way, but you kind of get annoyed because obviously nobody talks like that unless they really want something. But and I said it's not really that explicit, but I will say the sex scenes are, they are erotic, so it does mean that. Just don't expect it to be Matilda May walking around naked all the time. Life Force, we really need to talk about that on the podcast. And it really does intrigue me, because I was looking up The Hunger afterwards, and then looking up the original novel, and it's like, you're kidding me. This guy is getting original credits. I'm pretty sure The Hunger, it's not as queer. Still queer, don't get me wrong. But, the David Bowie's The Concubine thing, essentially. So, it does tell me I gotta get around to The Hunger, and I think that qualifies for 90 for Chill the podcast. So, yeah, this is a good learning experience, and classic European horror in a sense. Just, we're going to show you what you want to see, and not very gory, though. I guess that's going for it. But it's naughty one way or another. So Daughters of Darkness is definitely worth a watch.
It's Christmas, Theo. It's the time of miracles, so be of good cheer.
You know those teen vampire movies that feel like the horny soap opera fever dreams of an 8th grade diary? Here's how mine began.
The graduating class of Central Oregon High.
Be safe. Oh my God, guys, I'm gonna be fine. My first night in LA, and it's already the best night in LA.
Hi, we're going to after hours party if you want to come.
That's enough. Shoveled a lot in your life, haven't you? How would you like to hold the keys to the kingdom for a change? Now would be the time for any questions.
Were you guys like
vampires?
Yup. Do you guys kill people?
Indiscriminately.
Innocent people?
It's like 80-20. Rule number 1, never turn a man into a vampire. Men can't handle power. Welcome to Fight Club.
Fight Club?
What about Bit Girls? Sounds like we're part of STEM or something.
Welcome home.
What, no coffin?
Why would we do that?
'Cause it's dope.
You're staying away from drugs, right?
Yes, Mom. My life's a horror movie. Life's full of things you never think should happen, and then it does. I'm going to be 18 forever.
People just think you're aging well.
So, I've just concluded watching the movie Bit, I believe from 2019, 2020, depends on the source. It's about a recent high school graduate who decides to go and find herself in Los Angeles over her graduating summer and runs into a coven of vampires that are dead set on keeping the vampire race female, primarily practicing on searching down the douchebags of the male gender and making them pay for their sins. Maybe a few traps, maybe a few mistakes. You know, it's just her coping with it, very much like Louis in Interview with the Vampire. So a feminine version of that, rather brisk, only 90 minutes. It does kind of slow down once they try to establish some mythology, which is kind of unnecessary, I think. Otherwise, it really captures that vibe, say, of Foxfire with Angelina Jolie back from the mid-90s. Has a very eclectic soundtrack, very similar to that. For me, it kind of makes me further wonder where I stand as, you know, a cis heterosexual male type stuff. So it's got some deep thought into it. It's clever enough, humorous enough, and it really loves to rip at Twilight, so that's a thumbs up from me.
Can I hear a wahoo?